including his kinsman Eston Cook, a popular writer of the time, felt that Stuart should remain a horseman. Fighting was a necessity of his blood, Cook wrote, and the slow movements of infantry did not suit his genius. Stuart was born to fight cavalry. In any case, Lee, although he failed to promote him to Jackson's place, had an implicit faith in Stuart's ability and habitually entrusted the safety of his army to Jeb and his dashing rides. The rudimentary field communications of the Civil War demanded of the cavalry the utmost in bravery, durability, and vigilance. Squadrons fighting in advance of the slow-moving infantry masses lived dangerously in endless, grueling clashes, their days filled with charge and countercharge, hand-to-hand saber duels, and occasional pitched mini-battles. Victory or defeat of armies was often in the hands of their cavalrymen. The cavalry's role was never more decisive than during the Gettysburg campaign, which followed on the heels of Chancellorsville. As the army trailed northward across the Potomac and into Pennsylvania on its second invasion of enemy territory, Lee ordered Stuart to screen his movements and watch the enemy. Not only did this order force Stuart's men into savage minor engagements with Federal cavalry on the march, but Stuart was also left largely to his own devices after crossing the river. Lee's orders to him, which came indirectly, were perplexingly vague. These orders, Stuart's reaction to them, and the later consequences are examined in this text. Stuart's reputation was permanently damaged at Gettysburg, for he and his gray columns were absent during some of the war's most crucial days as the armies stumbled together almost by accident. Though Confederate defeat on that celebrated field might be attributed largely to Lee's habits of issuing rather imprecise orders and to his reluctance to enforce discipline among his generals, it was Stuart who bore the blame. Retreat from Gettysburg coincided with the decline of Confederate fortunes on the other fronts, and the cavalry's plight was typical of the tide of events running so strongly against Southern military efforts. By now, even urban cavalrymen from the north had become expert riders, and hordes of fresh men and herds of horses began pouring into all fronts. The enemy now had powerful new carbines and effective horse artillery, and were led by bold, confident new leaders. As the supply of blooded plantation stock dwindled, Stuart's squadrons began to lose their dash and battlefield superiority. The glamorous days of the early war were but a memory in the South by the time U.S. Grant came east to command the final drive to Federal triumph. His grinding victories, won at the cost of unprecedented casualties, made obvious the looming fate of the Confederacy. Among the casualties of this grim new warfare of attrition was Stuart, who fell in a skirmish on the Federal approach to Richmond, the victim of a pistol round fired at close range by a trooper from Michigan. The site was Yellow Tavern, a field now virtually obliterated by a stretch of superhighway. Within a few hours, Stuart was dead, and with him died much of the colorful gaiety of the Southern cavalry. Its plumed knight left no successors who could match his spectacular presence. Burke Davis, March 2000. Chapter 1. Old John Brown, October 18, 1859. The soldiers were drunk, and after dark the streets were full of them, popping their guns and shouting. Mist from the rivers writhed through the town in a slow gray current, and the troops plunged about in it like comic specters. There was a drizzle of cold rain. The saloon was open late, roaring, and men crowded the barrooms of the hotels, the Wager House and the Galt House, adding to their excitement with tales of the day's fighting. The troops were militiamen who had swarmed into the town in the fork of the Shenandoah and the Potomac to keep the peace. They had fired raggedly all day in an indecisive battle, and the little band of raiders which had defied them was still unsubdued, hiding in the fire engine house. Harper's Ferry waited. No one seemed to know what was to be done. A crowd of 2,000 stared at the brick firehouse and its enormous doors. Behind the doors lay the raiders and their prisoners. The engine house was almost surrounded by the militia, but their picketing was loose and unsoldierly. One militiaman growled that his troop had been given no orders since